I always thought I was the good one, the dependable daughter, the one who never got into trouble, never talked back, always showed up. If mom needed help at the store, I was there. If dad needed someone to drive him to the VA clinic, I cleared my calendar. So when I got the call that Sunday afternoon, "Come over, honey, we just want to talk," I didn't think twice, but maybe I should have. I pulled up to my parents' house at 3:58 p.m. sharp. Same white colonial home I'd grown up in. Same squeaky porch swing on the front stoop. The driveway was already full. My older brother Mason's beat-up pickup. My younger sister Kim's sleek little Tesla. That struck me as weird. My parents rarely invited all three of us over at the same time, unless it was Christmas or someone had died. I felt my stomach tighten just a little. I walked in through the kitchen door like I always did. My mom didn't even look up from the table. "Oh, good, you're here," she said, like I was late. It was that tone, flat, emotionless, the one she used when she was about to deliver bad news, but didn't want to seem like the villain. Dad sat across from her, silent as usual, nursing a lukewarm cup of black coffee. His veteran cap was on the table next to him, like it was supposed to do the talking for him. Mason leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, eyes smug. And Kim? Kim was smiling like she'd already won something. I didn't sit down. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Mom folded her hands neatly. "We've decided to finalize the will, and we thought it would be best to tell you all at once." "Oh, okay," I said slowly. "Well, that makes sense. I mean, not fun, but you're not in it." The words hit like a car crash. No warning, no easing into it. Just 3 words, blunt as a hammer. I blinked. "What?" "You're not in the will," my mother repeated, this time slower, as if I was too dense to understand. "We've decided to leave the house and savings to Mason and Kim." I felt the floor shift beneath me. I looked at my father, waiting for him to speak up, to jump in and say, "This is some kind of joke," but he just took a sip of his coffee and stared into the distance like he couldn't be bothered. Kim had her nails wrapped around her iced latte, smirking like she was enjoying every second. "Why?" I asked, the word barely a whisper. Mom sighed, like she had rehearsed this speech 100 times. "Because Mason's gonna carry on the family business, and Kim's struggling with her student loans. You've always been so independent. You'll land on your feet." So this wasn't a punishment. It was a justification. I was being punished for being dependable. "You're serious," I said. Mason snorted. "Come on, Lauren. You live in the city. You've got your own place, your own life. What would you even do with this old house?" Kim chimed in. "And you never even had kids. It makes more sense for it to go to people who are starting families." I laughed. It came out sharp, bitter. "Oh, so now I need a husband and a mortgage to count as family?" Mom winced. "Don't be dramatic." "I dropped everything when Dad had that heart scare last year," I said, my voice rising. "I'm the one who stayed up at night talking you through your anxiety attacks, Mom. When Mason was in jail for that bar fight, I was the one who bailed him out. When Kim called crying because her boyfriend cheated, who did she run to?" They didn't answer, because they didn't have to. They'd made up their minds long before I got there. I felt heat rising in my chest, but I didn't cry, not in front of them. "Thanks for the heads up," I said, voice tight. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I think I've heard enough." As I turned to leave, my father finally spoke. "You don't have to make a scene, Lauren." I froze in the doorway. "Oh, don't worry. I'll save the scene for later." And I walked out. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before I could even start the engine. My hands were shaking, not just from shock, from rage. This wasn't just about money. It wasn't about property. It was about being erased, about my parents rewriting history in front of my face, turning me into some footnote in their legacy. Oh yes, our daughter Lauren, the one who doesn't count. But they didn't know everything. They didn't know what I'd been keeping quiet about all these years. The real family secrets, the stuff I'd protected them from, without them ever realizing. If they thought cutting me out of the will was the end of this story, they had no idea what was coming next. I was in the middle of folding laundry when my phone buzzed, a message from my mom. Just 2 words, "Come over." No, please, no, how are you? Just cold. It had been months since I last visited my parents' house. Not because I didn't want to. Believe me, I used to love going home. But ever since my younger brother Evan and older sister Michelle moved back to town, something shifted. Suddenly, I became invisible. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Phone calls left on read, jokes at my expense at the dinner table, conversations where my input was talked over or ignored altogether. But this felt different. A direct summons, no context, no warmth, just come over. So I did. As I pulled into the driveway of my childhood home, something in my chest tightened. The same blue shutters, the same rose bushes Mom tended every spring. But everything felt colder, like the house had aged without me, or maybe I had just outgrown it. I stepped inside. No one greeted me, just the sound of muffled voices from the dining room. When I turned the corner, I saw them, Mom, Dad, Evan, Michelle, all sitting around the table like they'd been waiting for me. "Hey," I said cautiously. Dad gave a nod. Mom gestured to the seat at the end. I sat, and that's when Michelle, always the spokesperson when something uncomfortable was about to be said, spoke. "So, we wanted to talk about the will." My heart sank. The will? They weren't even that old. I mean, sure, Dad had heart surgery last year, and Mom had started forgetting little things. But this felt sudden, strategic. "We've been finalizing some things," Mom added, her tone clipped, "and we felt it was only fair you heard it from us." Then came the punch. "We've decided to leave the house, the lake property, and the family business to Evan and Michelle." I blinked. I waited for the, "and you'll get," but it never came. Just silence. I swallowed. I'm sorry, what?" Dad cleared his throat. "It's nothing personal, Rachel. You've got your own life in the city. You're doing fine. This just makes the most sense." Michelle chimed in. "You barely visit, and Evan and I are the ones who are here when they need help. It's only fair." Fair. That word echoed in my brain like a warning siren. It's funny how fast your body can go from numb to full-on fury. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of the betrayal, while my face stayed eerily calm. I was the one who paid off Dad's hospital bills, the one who sent Mom money every Christmas without fail, the one who stayed silent when Michelle flaked on holidays, and Evan showed up high to family dinners. But sure, I was doing fine, so I didn't need anything. I forced a smile. "Okay, thanks for letting me know." Mom looked surprised. "You're not upset?" "Oh, I am," I said, standing up, "but not for the reason you think." I turned and walked out, not because I was defeated, but because a plan was already forming. Outside, I sat in my car for 10 whole minutes before driving off. I didn't cry, not yet. I thought about every sacrifice I made, how I helped them without asking for anything in return, and how they had just wiped me out of the family legacy like I was a footnote number. This wasn't just about money, it was about erasure, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized something didn't add up. Why now? Why this? And why did Michelle seem almost too happy when she said it? I drove home in silence, but once I walked through my apartment door, I collapsed on the couch. Not from sadness, from something worse. Suspicion? Because something told me this wasn't just a cold decision. It was a setup, and if they thought I was going to let it go, they didn't know me at all. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Michelle's voice in my head. You barely visit. This just makes the most sense. It's only fair. I stared at the ceiling in the dark and whispered to no one, "What are you really hiding?" Because something about today was off. Too rehearsed, too polished, too convenient. Michelle, who couldn't keep a houseplant alive, now suddenly wanted to run the family business. Evan, who once tried to cash Dad's checkbook behind his back, was now the golden child? Please. By morning, I had made a decision. If they were going to treat me like an outsider, then I'd play the role to perfection and watch from the outside until the cracks showed. I started with the business. Dad had owned a small construction firm for over 30 years, Garrett and Sons. Funny how I was never included in that title, even though I helped Dad reorganize the books 3 summers in a row. But now, Michelle was listed on the website as co-director of operations. Since when? I dug deeper. There it was, a change in corporate ownership filings, made 4 weeks ago. Michelle and Evan had already transferred 70% of the company into their names before I was even called to that family meeting. So this wasn't a discussion, it was a cover-up. I called my friend Grace, a real estate attorney. "Can you check something for me?" I asked. I sent her the address of my parents' lake house, the one that was supposedly being passed down in the will. She called back in under 10 minutes. "Rachel, it was sold 2 weeks ago, transferred to a shell company based in Evan's name." She hesitated. "And get this, your parents' signatures aren't even on the deed." I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. Sold? Behind their backs? No wonder Michelle had looked so smug at that table. This wasn't just betrayal, it was manipulation of our parents, of the truth, of me. I drove back to my parents' house that weekend. I told them I brought over some old photo albums to go through, something Mom used to love. As we flipped pages, I tested the waters. "Remember the lake house, Mom?" I asked softly. "How long do you think you'll keep it before selling?" She blinked. "Sell it? Why would we sell it? Your father loves that place." I felt my stomach flip. "Right," I said slowly. "I was just wondering." Dad looked up from his paper. "We're not selling anything, not until we're gone. Michelle promised." Michelle promised. The words nearly made me sick. Because she had already sold it. They didn't even know. Later that night, I sat in my car across the street, gripping the steering wheel, watching their living room light through the window. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. Evan and Michelle had gone beyond selfishness. They weren't just scheming for inheritance. They were rewriting the future before our parents were even gone, like vultures circling before the body was cold. But why? What were they really after? I needed answers, fast. I started reaching out, discreetly. A former employee of Dad's, a guy named Joel, agreed to meet for coffee. He used to work side by side with my dad for 15 years, but was suddenly let go 6 months ago. When I asked why, he leaned in. "Your sister," he whispered. "She told your dad I was stealing from the company." I blinked. "Were you?" He looked hurt. Number never. I asked too many questions about the bookkeeping. I noticed someone was funneling money into a separate account, and when I brought it up, poof, fired. He pulled out a slip of paper from his wallet and slid it across the table. It was a bank account number with a company name I didn't recognize, MCE Holdings. "Michelle, Christine, Evan," he said, shaking his head. "Took me a while to piece it together, but I'm telling you, something isn't right." I left the cafe feeling dizzy. Everything was unraveling, fast. My siblings weren't just manipulating my parents, they were laundering money through the family business, behind our father's back, and likely planning to blame it all on him if things fell apart. But how could I prove it? And more importantly, how could I protect my parents from the two people they trusted most? Back at home, I stared at the printed paper with that account number and whispered to myself, "You wanted me gone. You thought I wouldn't dig. You thought I'd just walk away." But I wasn't going anywhere, not until the truth burned through every lie. I didn't cry that night. I thought I would. I thought I'd fall apart. But there was something about having the truth laid bare. It was oddly freeing. Mom tried to call me the next day, twice, left a voicemail saying, "I didn't mean for it to come out like that, sweetheart. We just wanted to protect you." Protect me? From what? My own worth? Number. They weren't protecting me. They were protecting their narrative, one where I was always the outsider, the one who didn't fall in line, didn't play the game, didn't stay close enough to be controlled. The morning after that disastrous dinner, I packed a single bag and drove to the coast. No plan, no destination, just out. I needed air, I needed space, and I needed to remind myself I wasn't broken, just betrayed. A week later, my sister Claire emailed me a PDF subject line. "You deserve to know." It was a scan of the will, everything, the house, the life insurance, the joint investments, all split evenly between her and my brother Ryan. There wasn't even a sentence about me, not even a token gesture like, "We leave our love and memories to our daughter." Nothing. It was like I'd been erased. I didn't reply to Claire, not right away. Instead, I met with a therapist, booked a full hour, just to say everything out loud, without being interrupted. I needed someone to hear it, the confusion, the guilt, the anger, and yes, even the shame, because as much as I told myself they were wrong, some little part of me still whispered, "Maybe they had a point, maybe you weren't good enough." But that voice wasn't mine. That was the voice my parents planted in me a long time ago, and I was finally learning to silence it. A month passed. No new calls, no apologies. My mother posted a family photo on Facebook, her, Ryan, and Claire at brunch. Captioned, "Blessed to be surrounded by my loving children." I wasn't tagged, wasn't even mentioned, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel hurt. I felt free. I bought a small condo outside of Seattle, just me and my dog, Rue. I started freelancing again, editing manuscripts, coaching young writers, rediscovering what made me feel alive, instead of just useful. One afternoon, I got a knock on the door. It was Claire. She looked tired, older than I remembered. She said, "Can we talk?" I let her in. She didn't beat around the bush. She told me she had always known Mom was manipulative, but didn't realize how much until after that dinner. She needed us to be close to her, to orbit around her. You left, and that made her feel rejected. So she rewrote the story, said you were selfish, ungrateful, that you abandoned the family. I sat there, quiet, let her speak. Then she said something that stayed with me. She made me promise not to tell you about the will. I broke that promise, but I don't care, because you were right. You deserved to know. I asked her if she regretted staying close. She nodded. Every day. I didn't forgive her immediately, but I didn't shut the door either. Healing isn't a clean break. It's messy, layered, non-linear. Some days I feel powerful, other days hollow, but I never go back. I never let myself reach for their approval again. 2 years passed. Mom passed away last spring. I got the news through a cousin. There was no funeral invite. I didn't ask for one. And still, when I walked along the beach that night, I let myself cry, not because I missed her, but because I mourned the idea of a mother I never really had, a version of her that could have loved me without condition. That version died a long time ago. Maybe it never existed. I started a blog shortly after. It's called The Uninvited Daughter. I write about grief, estrangement, and choosing yourself, even when your own family doesn't. It grew. People wrote in, thousands. Strangers from all over the world said, "Me too." And for once, I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen. Last week, I got an email from a publishing house. They want to turn my story into a memoir. The title, Left Out, but Never Left Behind. And I smiled, because for the first time, I didn't just survive being forgotten. I rewrote the ending.